Welcome back to More Moss to the People. This is Asa Nilsson, and I am your host. Today, I have with me Maria Saraphina from Denmark, southern Denmark. Is that correct?
Yes.
Another Scandinavian soul sister in the house.
Yes.
Yeah, my first Dane was Novalie Wilder, and which is your girl, right? This is your friend, and she was actually the one that recommended that maybe you want to speak with Maria. And I was like, wait a minute, I know her because I have been following you for, well, since 2017, I believe, on on social media. Yeah. So please take a minute and introduce yourself and tell us who you are in this world, please.
Thank you. Hi, Osa, and hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, it was Novalie, my dear friend. And yes, I am born and raised in Denmark. Well, born and raised in Copenhagen. I now live somewhere outside of the city because I like to get my feet in wet soil and be under an open sky and all that.
Me
too.
So
that's where I'm at. So my name, like you said, my name is Maria Saraphina. I am a spiritual business coach, energy alignment method mentor, catalyst, and a facilitator, and spiritual being having a human experience.
Yes.
What I do is I help business owners and companies bring ideas to life and dreams into reality. I've been doing that since somewhere around 2012. I am out and proud when it comes to my spirituality. I don't hide anything in that sense. I am also very strategic, very practical, very mundane, and very down to earth in my, as much as I am open and spiritual and seeing and all that. So I work with clients all over the world, really, except I haven't, there's no one from Antarctica or South America. So if people are from that places, please hit me up because those are the continents I haven't touched yet.
Okay, so. The day is young, girl. You don't know what's coming for you today.
Exactly. And so, yeah, so I think that's it. Like that's my very short introduction. People can find me on my website if they want to know more. And probably through this conversation, they'll learn more as well.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think that's the reason that I was also like, I'm attracted to people that are spiritual leaders and thinkers and intuitive and all that, and practical, right? Because if you're too out here for me, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't connect because I got to have some grounding in there. Yeah. And I think that we're going to talk about your history and how that you are out loud and proud now.
Yes.
With your spirituality and kind of where that started from. But I wanted to show you, this is how I first was introduced to Maria. Yeah, because this book, I have heard it. I've heard the name throughout my life. Never was called to it. And then all of a sudden, I have no idea where it came from. But I'm like, oh, I got to buy this book. I have to buy A Course in Miracles. Yeah. And then miraculously, of course, because I do believe in miracles, I don't know if I researched online or whatever I was looking for, and I found you. And you were talking like a daily message from A Course in Miracles. And I would sit and I would listen like, oh my gosh. So I did this twice, 2 years in a row. And I mean, it changed the trajectory of who I am as a human being, human doing, human whatever, living. And I want to thank you for that being the introduction to you and also to the work. So can you talk a little bit about how you found A Course in Miracles for somebody who knows nothing about what this is? Yes.
So I like to say that A Course in Miracles finds us at the time where we need them the most, or needed the most. And it's usually people, or we have had it in our periphery for a while. A lot of people have it on their shelves for years and don't like, and then one day there's something that just clicks. For me, my introduction to Course in Miracles happened through Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
And I think I've sort of researched, I think she must have mentioned it on an Oprah show back when Oprah did her shows. And the way that I was introduced to it was through her book, Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. Mm-hmm. Now, in the beginning, like so many others, I really tried to get a grasp of this text.
Yeah.
And failed hard. Like I I would start so many times and I would, I would just not get it. I'd fall asleep and, the book hit my face and I wouldn't understand anyway. There's a whole bunch. There's like an article on my website where you like a free article where I go through all of the things that you think you need to know, you do to do A Course in Miracles, and how it's all essentially BS and it's internal. Yeah. It's part of the journey. Yeah. And so through that, I had my first, I think, real dark night of the soul. And Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love, is what sort of saved me and then prepared me for the love that is in A Course in Miracles. And it was somewhere around 2012 when I first truly started reading it. And then I read it or studied it for a year, then I studied it for another year, and then I studied it for another 2 years. And I had some experiences. So back in 2012, this was, I had already abandoned my corporate career, but back in 2012, I was placed, quote unquote, by coincidence, quote unquote, if you believe in those, in Southern California. I found myself in Southern California. I was going to be there for 3 months. And every Monday, as I arrived, I would drive up to LA to see Marianne Williamson. She had these Monday night talks where she would talk about, A Course in Miracles. And I would, do this 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive up every Monday. And then on the way back, I would buy the CDs. They would print the CDs from what she talked. And then I would listen to, this was the CD time, right? Yeah. So I would listen to that going back in the car. And then one night, it was a Wednesday night, I think about 2 to 3 weeks in, I was closing down my computer at night and I noticed I was on Facebook and I noticed something that said, notes from a workshop to A Course in Miracles workshop Temecula. And I was like, Temecula, like that's where I'm at. What is this? And long story short, I followed these leads and I came to a group that I don't remember ever joining on Facebook. And it turned out that Foundation for Inner Peace, which was the organization that was created to support the expansion of the teachings of A Course in Miracles, was literally like 15 minutes away from my house.
Huh. What are the chances of that, right?
And I still get goosebumps all over.
I just got goosebumps too.
So long story short, I ended up spending 3 months, like every Monday I would be in LA with Marianne, and every Thursday I would be with these people. And then there were these workshops as well. I was fortunate enough to attend a workshop with a guy named Kenneth Wapnick, who worked with Helen Schuckman to create these things. So it was like I was submerged in A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And that was the first year I truly succeeded in completing the study. And that continued for almost another 4 years. And like you said, it's, I don't know if it changed the trajectory of my life, but it helped me helped me move from fear to love in my essence, in my frequency, it helped me solidify my choice that love is the way for me, like in whatever way, shape, or form, love is the way for me. And that is whether it is easy, and especially when it's really, really hard and difficult. And it is the principle upon which I base my life, my work, my business. And it has caused everything to fall apart as they have to. It has caused me to have to tear out roots. It has caused me to, business-wise, to have a look at my marketing and the way that I produce. Like, is this based in love? It has caused me to make decisions, like to not, quote unquote, expand, because it meant that I would have to pay people not an appropriate wage. It has made me ensure that if I have an agreement with a company or a freelancer or anyone, that whatever work they do, like if they have people that they hire in, those people are paid properly as well. It has caused me to ensure that through every step that I do in my life and in my business, love is the way. And in that, it has brought with it a deep level of satisfaction and nourishment that is so far beyond anything that this world can give me in material things, or not that I love material things but it's a freak, and even now I can feel it, like it's a frequency and it's a vibration that is satisfying beyond anything that you can, or I could ever have imagined when I was crying on my bathroom floor back in 2010, 9, 8, feeling completely alone and not knowing, having, I mean, I had everything that you're supposed to have, right? I had a career, I had the money, I had the company car, I was traveling, I had great colleagues. I mean, I was on the C-suite, I was on the track, right?
Right.
But every night when I came home, I would just be on my bathroom floor crying my eyes out, not realizing why, because I realize that now I was spiritually undernourished. I had no
I love that term.
to love. I had no connection to God. I had no connection to spirituality. I had no connection. And it wasn't until it was one day I was laying on that floor, and all of a sudden I realized that while I, as a physical human being, was on the floor crying my eyes out, there was a part of me that was the observer, who was outside of myself, who was at peace, at complete peace, just observing what was going on. And I knew in that moment that I wanted that peace that seemed outside of myself to be integrated, to be embodied.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's when I started listening to not A Course in Miracles, but Marianne Williamson's book, Return to Love. I would listen to that every night as I was going to bed. I would this was the day of the iPods, right? This was even before CDs. So, or after, I would listen to that. I would go to bed, I would put it on, and I would play. And so it would just play out while I was sleeping. Because
so you had a subliminally going into your head.
Exactly. So and today, A Course in Miracles is just such an ingrained part of me. There's so many layers to it, and there's so many quotes that you just like.
I know.
I have you saw, for people who are listening, I'm showing the book. You can see all of my notes that I have. So it became truly it's a way of living. Love is a way of living, right? Love is the way for me.
It's and that's a beautiful way to live a life. Yeah. And that's an honorable way for the self to be connected to self and all things. Yeah. And I mean, for you now the point of More Moss to the People, the movement, is for having nice discussions, or having discussions with people that have opted to choose themselves, to choose their lives, their way, over possibly the easier path of staying with the C-suite, doing the traveling and doing all the things, having the money. I mean, that's nice. It is. I'm not saying that it's not nice to have money, but at what expense? To what expense? So you said in 2008 and then 2016, you had some dark nights of the soul for you in your life. Yes. Is there, I mean, for anyone listening that potentially is feeling the same way, that, you know what, I don't know how to get out of this. I know I don't feel good. I know I don't feel connected to myself or to the ground or to the earth or to God or spirit or whatever. Do you have any thoughts that you can offer from your journey that might help somebody else? Yeah. So I've just created a new freebie called 5 Ways to Experience Love Instantly. And in that I go through, and I'm happy to share them. In that I go through how we can, because the thing about love is that it cannot force itself upon you. Because if it could, it would not be love. Love is a choice. Love is choosing. Like, love is a choice. When you choose love as your way, you have to choose it. Otherwise, again, like I said, it wouldn't be love. And so I have this concept. I've never found a fancy term for it, but it's love with love. It's like you make the choice for love, and then what happens? So for me personally,
I found a Return to Love, then I found A Course in Miracles. I thought, okay, I have chosen love. Now the heavens will open, angels will descend, rose petals will be strewn, my obstacles will be cleared because I have chosen love.
Right. Sure.
And so what happens instead is that everything that is out of resonance with love will be presented to you so that you have an opportunity to clean up your shit.
Tests. The
That's what
tests are
happens.
coming. Uh-huh.
Or it might be that I'm just not spiritually evolved enough to the point where it just magically transforms. That might be it as well. I'm not
I don't know
saying.
about that.
But so the simplest way, the one thing that I always tell people, if you want to add more to love to your life, is take out your phone, set a gentle alarm to go off 5 times a day. You can do it like randomly. Pick a gentle alarm so it doesn't go and have it be on low, so that, because that way it's not disturbing if you're at work or at the supermarket or whatever what happens. And so when it happens, you hear the tone, and all you do is you say, I choose love, and then you just go on about your day. And that way, I choose love. That way you confirm and you reaffirm your choice, commitment to love on a daily basis. I mean, I personally, it's something that I would do every hour, but you can, like I say, 5 times a day or 8, you can do however many times a day you want. But that's a really quote unquote simple way to welcome in love in your life. And then and then notice what happens. Be curious about see the love that is already present in your life. Another great thing is to see the things that you are grateful for. Find the ways that, and oh my God, there are times when it's I get it. There are times when it's really difficult, especially in the beginning, to find what you're grateful for. But the more, and I'm not talking about spiritually bypassing. So it's not about, I like to say, deny, not ignore. And this is actually something that it's inspired by A Course in Miracles, because it's not about ignoring what's coming up for you. We have feelings, we have emotions, we get angry, we get upset, we get vengeful, we get jealous, we get hateful. We have all these emotions, and that is perfectly normal, fine. It's not about ignoring them. It's about choosing whether or not you want to act or whether or not you want to do something with them.
Right. Choice.
Does it lift you up or does it tear you down, is what I like to ask. And so, and that's where the mastery through love comes in. That's the fancy, non-fancy concept that I was talking about, is that when you make the first step for a choice for love, what happens then is that all of the things that are out of resonance with love, especially on the inside, all of the ways that you think that you failed or is not good enough or is bad or don't deserve or are a sinner, all of these things will come up for you. And that's when you have to then make the second choice for love. I will love myself, even though that I have failed, even though that I spoke badly about that person, even though that I was jealous today, even though that I felt anger today, even though I will love myself, because the most revolutionary act that you can do is choosing love even when you don't want to, especially when it's about yourself.
Especially when you don't want to.
Because what happens is slowly the veils begin to lift, and you begin to see and recognize your true nature. You begin to connect with that which you never left, that which had always been there. So you may not be able to see right now that you were a beautiful, shining being, a radiant one, as I like to call him. Yeah. Based in love, for love, by love, with love. You are love in itself. You just have these veils that hinder your sight. You hinder your experience of it. So in your choice for love, the veils begin to be lifted and you start to see your true nature. And
that's a nice thing to come back to, nice thing to come home to.
Yes. And there is a peace, and there is a non-having to do part of that. That is just, you begin to recognize, quote unquote, true love. And we've, and I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the connection to all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. To me, God is love. Love is God. God is an energy. It's an essence. It's an intelligence. and you and me and everyone else, everyone listening, everyone watching, those who are not listening, who are never watching, are God made manifest. We're love made manifest on this earth.
Mm.
And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to support the elevation of that frequency and that vibration.
But how does that impact you? Because I mean, to me, to hear that, it's like it's music to my soul. Because I'm a sensitive girl. I'm an empath. I understand. I mean, I connect with that so deeply. Now, that isn't easy. That isn't, because not everyone lives like that. Not everybody understands, like, oh God, you're all woo. But whatever. How do you choose? I mean, I know that it's based in love and that you are love and we are love, but we still got to get up every day. And you mentioned not doing any spiritual bypassing. And I don't know that necessarily everybody understands what that even means, what spiritual bypassing means.
Yes. Yes.
Is that something you can speak to?
Yes. So spiritual bypassing, it means that you're only focusing on the good part. It's this notion, truthfully, it's this bullshit notion that we somehow can only be high vibrational beings, that we can only be in the good feelings. I don't know anybody who can, like, and again, that's why I was saying it may be that I'm not spiritually not well involved enough to be in that vibration all the time, but I find myself in peace and love most of the time.
Right.
And then there's times when I'm not. And so spiritual bypass is when we ignore that we have feelings and emotions that are coming through, and that it actually ends up being detrimental because it tears us down. The notion that we're supposed to be perfect, the notion that we're supposed to have this appearance of perfection in the world, the notion that we're not supposed to set boundaries, the notion that we're not supposed to say no and claim what we want or have desires. That's spiritually bypassing. And from an energetic perspective, because as you know, I work with energy. Part of the work that I do is energetic alignment as well. And if we look at it from an energetic perspective, if you're only in one vibration, you have a flat line. And if you have a flat line and you're thinking about the heart and the EKG, what happens?
Right.
You're dead. Yes, there is no life. So a life, there is fluctuations. There is fluctuation, and
we're meant to have that.
Exactly, and we're meant to have those experiences. And I can speak from personal experience. I have found myself that I am able to now stay at peace and in love in difficult situations. When I am angry or hurt or upset, I am still able to find myself at peace with it. I'm able to detach myself from it. I'm able to express, and sometimes, I don't express it in the best of ways, but I have found my way through it. And so that's what I mean by spiritual, like the notion. And even I know with even a Course in Miracles sometimes get flack for, just talking about love. But though I would venture to say that the critics have not really done the course, because like the course it's hard. And that's again, the notion that everything's just supposed to be easy. Like things require discipline, things require repeating things. The things that you want require working for. Did that answer your question in terms of spiritual bypassing?
Yeah. I mean, for my sake, because, I think that we take, sometimes we take for granted that everybody is in the same place in understanding terms that maybe, I mean, I think it's like when I used to work in banking, like, or in real estate, you use terms that you think that everybody understands. And then sometimes people don't ask. And then I want to be clear with as much clarification as I can, but with your work in the world and how you show up and how you said you love the sun and you love the American way, and which I think was also a nice connection. But the work that you're doing with your energy alignment, I mean, that's a trade. Is that your own work? Is that your own trademark? Is that something you have come up with yourself?
No. That's something that I'm trained in. It's a methodology that I'm trained in. The energy alignment method is what I'm trained in. It was when I knew about energy, but I'd never experienced energy in that way.
Yeah.
And so when I experienced it in that way, I just knew that I had to incorporate it into my work, because they're like, everything is energy.
Yes.
It's super simple. Everything is energy. And energy can be in one of three states. And when you are in the states that are not the flow state, things are difficult or hard. And you have to, with the way that I work, we can very easily. So for example, if I'm working with a client, and often, it can be, there's usually something that they're wanting to bring to life, an idea, a product, a new arm of their business. It can be various things. And there will always be things that are coming up. There will always be fears and worries and doubts and concerns. And what I've found is, when I'm doing it, when we release it energetically, we can bypass the brain, go straight to the source, release it, and then move forward from there. People feel so relieved. So they feel lighter, they feel bigger. Things that they have walked around with for years are gone.
Holding on to,
which
holding
is
so tight onto, right?
Yes. And so I chose to incorporate it because I could see the power both in my own life as well as that in my client's life, how much easier things get. That is not to say that you won't be challenged, because there are going to be challenges that, that's what life is all about. It's about moving through that. What I have found with the implementation of energy work, which I now do on a daily basis as well as weekly with my clients, is that there is a much greater sense of flow. Like you have a thought, and then you think of a problem and the solution appears. Like that's it's still, even again, despite me being so spiritual, it's still very, very sometimes it's very baffling to me that it can happen so quickly when we're in flow, but it does. I see it, like I said, I see it myself, and I see it with clients as well. And so yeah, there's a way of getting to the origin of things that for me, like with the way that I work, is that you take out the guesswork of what's happening. So when people sit down with me in sessions, they usually have an idea of what's going on, and then they get so surprised when I start asking questions, because then I tune in and all of the stuff happens. I start asking questions, and they realize that this is connected to something that they had no idea about.
Yeah.
But that's been really, really weighing them down, and so they release it. And like I said, they feel lighter, stronger, more confident, more clear, more courageous. Like it's just. So that's why I've chosen to incorporate energy work into the way that I do it. And I have my own twist on it. So I use the energy alignment method as my basis, and then I have my own spin and twist on it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I love, I'm learning about energy work, which it fascinates me. Now, I want to ask a question about something that I've always meant to ask you, and I never have reached out and asked, but the Magdalene voices. What does that mean? I don't understand what it means.
Yes. So the Magdalene Voices is a show, it was my first show and podcast ever. And still is. It lives primarily on YouTube. I think it's also on Spotify as well. So the Magdalene Voices, oh God. So like you said, back in 2016, I was going through a dark night of my soul. At the end of 2016, I was watching some sort of, I think it was on Netflix. I was watching a miniseries on the life of Yeshua, Jesus. I call him Yeshua ben Yosef. And I found myself like I was heartbroken and crying my eyes out. And I was like, I did not understand, because it's not, the life or the story of Yeshua's life is very well known. It's not a surprise what happens at the end. But I just remember that when they came to the part of him, carrying the cross and being crucified, I was just so devastated. I was like, it was like, and I was surprised by it. Fast forward to the beginning of 2017, and I was having a session with my coach, and she took me at the end of the session. She took me through sort of like a mini regression. And I saw myself flying all the way back. I'm moving through time, and I saw myself standing on a hill looking up at Yeshua on the cross. And I don't know who I was. I don't know what I was doing there. I just remember thinking I had this heartbroken feeling of like we don't know what we've like, you know, forgive them, Lord. They don't know what they've done.
Yeah.
Like, so it was
Yeah.
that emotion that was there. And then I started writing. I had a practice of writing, and I would be writing every 2 hours for every day. And I would be writing all of these things, and I was reading different books as well. And I was introduced to the divine feminine, the concepts of the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And a dear friend of mine, Tricia McCannon, who's written a book called, what's it called? Sophia, something about Sophia. I don't remember. But reading her book, I started seeing a lot to do with divine feminine and divine masculine. And in one of our conversations, she said, why don't you do like a show where you talk about stuff, where you interview people? And I was like, no, I want to be the one that's in front. You know, I was just being like a 4-year-old. And then one day I woke and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a show. And I knew in that moment it was be called The Magdalene Voices. Because, and at that time I'd read a ton of books about the real life of Yeshua, about the Essenes, about the Magdalene. So in my perspective, and I understand this might be different for other people, but from what I have gathered and what I have learned over the years, there were more than just one Magdalene. So we know Mary the Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, who for a lot of people is known as the prostitute in the Bible. She is not the prostitute in the Bible. The idea that the notion that she was a prostitute or a whore was one that was done in, I think, 400 and something or 600 and something. It was introduced by the Pope, I believe, back then, and is something that we have then thought to be true for the past 2,000 years. The Catholic Church knows it's not true, and they also did decree something differently back in the 70s, and then they've done it different times. So what I wanted to do with the Magdalene Voices was to show that there are different voices, because my understanding is that Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, Mary the Magdalene, came to earth to once again implement love as the way. That's what they came to teach. That's what they preached. They preached that love is the way. And Yeshua, Mary was actually Mary the Magdalene, and Magdalene in I believe it's Hebrew, it means the exalted one. It means the tower. It means the teacher. It means the one that had risen above the others. And so it's Mary Magdalene is actually a title. It's not a name. They believe, it's said that it stems from the city of Magdala, which is in, I believe, Israel right now. But the city of Magdala was not named Magdala till years later. So the title, the Magdalene, is a title that you receive when you are the teacher.
Okay, so it's not an actual person's name.
It's a title, yes.
Okay.
And just as I can't remember the Anointed One, Yeshua, his title is also Yeshua. Is Jesus never mind. I can't remember. He has a title as well. And so what I wanted to do was, with the Magdalene Voices, is I wanted to give voice to the different voices of the Magdalene, because there's a lot of people who are finding themselves. So after the divine feminine has been suppressed for more than 2,000 years, there is a resurgence of the divine feminine in the world. And so what I wanted to do with the Magdalene Voices was that I wanted to give people a different perspectives on the stories that we've been told for centuries. Okay. Not to stuff anything down your throat, but to give you an idea that something might be different. And the things that you are sensing, the things that you are feeling, the things that you're noticing is not you being crazy. It's actually just a resurgence. It's a reawakening. It's a remembering. It's a reminding of who you are. And so that's how the Magdalene Voices was birthed. And then the beginning of, I think it was 2018. This was 6 months after I'd started the Magdalene Voices. I was doing a dream journey, or a journey where I was meeting one of my guides. I knew that there was a guide that was wanting to come and meet me. I didn't know who they were. And so I was in this journey. It was so funny. I was on this beach. It was clear water, and this person is sailing towards me in a boat. And when she gets off, it's Mary the Magdalene. And I was just like, what? And she was laughing so hard at me. She was like, what did you expect? Like, you've been teaching this for,
You've been calling me.
in 6 months. You didn't think that I would show up? And I'm like, and so when it comes to Mary the Magdalene, is that when she shows up, I mean, you better be prepared for change, because she is like, I like to, she brings fire. She burns things down to the ground that no longer serve you. She requires for you to rise.
Like the Tower card in tarot.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Tower. Exactly. That's what I love. Like the Magdala, right? The Tower. She will, quote unquote, call you to purify, like to just cleanse. So whenever people tell me that they have the Magdalene showing up, I'm like, oh, good luck, because you're in for a ride when she
Hold
shows
on.
up. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. She will not. And the funny thing is, clients tell me that when they're in session with me, there is nowhere to, like, it's like they're being seen and they're being asked to rise. I do that in a loving way, of course, but I also call them in. We're not here to play small. You are here to rise. You're here to be of service. And so when I work with companies or business owners, entrepreneurs, the love has to be the way in your business. And it might not be right now, but that's got to be the path that you're on, so that what you create, what you put out into the world, supports the elevation of the frequency and the vibration of us all, so that we all rise. Like, that's
the collective.
So
that's definitely the new way. It's, well, the old way, the new way, it's coming back together. It's coming back, right? This whole, I heard somebody say once that there's a seat change happening, where the masculine, the divine masculine, is being moved and the divine feminine coming in. And now
the way that I see it is that, and that's one of the pitfalls I see of the divine feminine rising currently, is that it seems as though the divine masculine is not supposed to rise with her.
It's supposed
and
to be
he
balance.
is. Yes, because ultimately they form the heroes gamas, the sacred marriage. They become one, because we live in the world of duality, of polarity, hot and cold, wet and dry. We live like, that's how we experience, that's how our souls evolve. But we also recognize on a deeper level that we're one. Like, there is, and then, quantum physics is proving what, ancient traditions, indigenous peoples have said for millennia, is that we're all everything is one. Not to say that we don't have different experiences, because that's really, really important to clarify again. And that goes back to spiritually bypassing. Just because we're just all one doesn't mean that we have different experiences.
Right.
I'm white. I'm born and raised in Denmark, which is a democratic, social country with welfare. We care about our people. I am straight. I do not like, so I have all of the privileges and benefits of being a white straight woman in this world. And I recognize that that is not the experience of other people, of people with a different color, of people with a different gender, of people with a different sexuality. And so again, going back to the spiritually bypassing, don't spiritually bypass saying we're all one, and so we're supposed to have the same experiences. We're all one, and we're all equal, but that doesn't mean that we have the same experience. So be very, very clear. And that is also part of the love. Again, going back to having to recognize where you are privileged and where you have, because I can go back and say, oh, my upbringing was so and so, and yes, and I am still privileged because I am white and I am straight, and I've been born and raised in Denmark. So yes, I'm hoping that I'm demonstrating that the type of love that I'm talking about is all encompassing, but it's also one that requires of you to do your best, and not because there are times when we suck at things. There are times when we're going to be crying in the corner. Like, that's just life. But it is the type of love that will work in service for all. And so again, the businesses, the companies that I work with, they all share that idea. If there's not that, then we're not the right match.
Yeah, then it's just not going to work out for both of you, because it has to be a win-win-win.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to round up this call today, that we to help one another, to recognize one another, to bring it back to love, back to love. When we start from love and we are love, and share that with the world, then it can't help, the vibration cannot help but to come closer and closer and closer to what love is.
Yeah. And like I said, setting boundaries and saying no is just as loving as saying yes. And being open is. So,
I'm learning that.
Yes.
I've got my Boundary Boss book here by my side. Oh, thank you so much, Maria. Thank you for today. Thank you for this time together, and you're sharing your beautiful story. And I'm so glad that you got out of that C-suite and got on your own journey.
Yes.
Found your way back to you, so that you can serve in the world in the way that that only you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Osa.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. And I'd love to have you back one day to hear what's going on with you.
I will be back.
Good. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.